so much once again. We're about to end the videos. Another paid request. This time for Aragorn. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both things are down below in the info box. And Aragorn wanted me to react to his list of top 20 favorite movies of all time. So I thought I would give that a look. Number 20, he has Home Alone. Good choice. Fun comedy. Would it be in my top 20? No, but I do like the film. I do think it's a good Christmas movie. It's definitely one of my favorite Christmas films. I think Macaulay Culkin definitely had that right spark that made people enjoy his performance. Daniel Stern and Joe Pesci definitely make that film. They work so well together. They have great chemistry with each other, and the traps is that entertaining Three Stooges style slapstick that I grew up with, because I grew up with the Three Stooges. And even the other cast members, the family members, did what they could. Like John Hurt is a good actor, may rest in peace. He didn't have much to do with it as a part, but he still, worked well for what he needed to do. John Williams did a wonderful job on the score, the musical score, to really capture that Christmas feeling. Yeah, Home Alone is a good one. Number 19, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, a great movie. Love Bob Hoskins, may he rest in peace. Did a fantastic job, not just with the character he's portraying, but to have to act with animated, and he looks like he's looking at the character, not through the character. It's very hard to do. You have to look like you're looking at this and not through it like this. So I know you're supposed to be looking at this, but if you're looking at this, it's like compared to this, there's like a little bit of a difference, and Bob Hoskins knew that and made that work very well. Christopher Lloyd is a lot of fun. There's great melding of live action and cartoon. Probably the only time you'll ever see Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse in the same movie, in the same frame. So it's definitely historic on that front. I like it was cool to see like Donald Duck and Daffy Duck in the same scene, and fascinating that has a bit of a darkness to it because of the death of Bob Hoskins' character's brother, and who did it, and it's the judge, and he's really a toon who hated toons, and they seem like an interesting backstories to what, he's a cartoon, but he hates toons enough to kill Toontown, so like what makes you wonder what made him push off that rock, so to speak, off that pedestal, off that ledge. But Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and of course you got Jessica Rabbit, and yeah, I know she's anime, but she's pretty hot, I gotta admit. And it's just a very fun movie, very imaginative, very creative film, and I bet a pain in the ass to make, but it paid off. That's one I would have been curious about a sequel. There was one that was going to be about the war, Toon Patrol, I think. I remember there was a rumor at one point, years and years ago, of Roger Rabbit and Mickey Mouse, like a road trip movie or something. I would have been curious about that, but again, that never happened either. Like, other than a couple cartoons in front of, like, I think Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and other, they never really did anything else with Roger Rabbit, which I am surprised by that. 18, Aliens. Love the film to death. I've talked about Aliens time and time again. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It's one of my favorite action films of all time. Easily in my top 3 favorite films of all time. I love the film to death. Sigourney Weaver, Lance Henriksen, Michael Biehn, James Cameron's my favorite film of his. I love the score by James Horner. It's my favorite score of his, especially the Bishop's Countdown track. The Xenomorph, especially the Alien Queen by Stan Winston, looks fantastic to this day. I really like the characters. They have a good personality and some fun bits of humor, especially Bill Paxton. Game over, man, game over. 17 days, we're gonna last 17 hours. Why don't you put her in charge? Hudson, man, he should have lived. But technically no one lived because of Alien 3. But to me, Alien 3 doesn't exist in this dojo. Aliens, fantastic film. I could watch that any day, any week, and twice on Thursday. I really could. Especially this special edition cut. Number 17, Akira. Good choice. It's my favorite anime film. I remember at first being confused about the story. I just because the what it's based on is a much longer story, and this had to be truncated to I don't know 90 minutes to 2 hours, something like that. But it has some pretty damn good animation, crazy interesting soundtrack. I also remember when I first saw this, the dub of I think Kaneda. I'm bad with names. Was the voice Cam Clark who voiced Leonardo in the 80s Ninja Turtles cartoon, the 80s to 90s cartoon. So I'm like, oh, it's Leonardo's voice. So it's that was a nice little point for me to start liking the film because of that reason. But yeah, Akira, very solid, pretty gory movie as well. Definitely some crazy visuals in that. Number 16, Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049. Good choices. I actually like Blade Runner 2049 more. I know I'm alone in that. Because I liked Ryan Gosling's journey more than Harrison Ford's journey in the first film. And I liked the love story more than I did in the first film. Although the first film has some beautiful visuals, has some great music by Vangelis. Rutger Hauer stole the show. But again, I would say I like Ryan Gosling as a Blade Runner more than Harrison Ford as a Blade Runner. Because I like Ryan Gosling's story of, oh, he thinks he's human, he thinks it's him, but then he realizes, oh, it's not me. And yeah, I liked, as predictable or as cliche people say that is, I liked that story arc. And I just enjoyed that journey more than Harrison Ford, who just he was an awful Blade Runner. He screwed up all the time. And I know that's the point, but he screwed up all the time. He lost his gun. He didn't beat up. Sean Young had to save him. Even Rutger Hauer had to save him. He really sucks at his job. Well, did he get the license at the bottom of Cracker Jack or proof of purchase? Like, how did he get this job? I'm like, how is he a replicant? If he is, he's a really horrible replicant because he's weaker than everybody else. I just used to say he'd last longer, but if he's this weak, he's not going to last that long other than some luck and chance. But I don't know. I like Blade Runner. I like Blade Runner 2049 a lot more. The Fifth Element, number 15, love that film. Saw that in the theater. Great movie. I thought it was very creative in its visuals and way it detailed the cityscapes. And I still think that's a gorgeous movie to look at. Bruce Willis is having fun, which is nice to see after his dementia has been let out to the public as though it was aphasia, but it's dementia, which is too bad. But Bruce Willis, Mila Jovovich, even Chris Tucker, Gary Oldman, Ian Holm, Tiny Lister Jr., they're a pretty damn good cast. Brian James. And like I said, just a gorgeous looking movie. I love just the costumes and the looks of the ships and the model work, and there had to have been definitely some influence from 1981's Heavy Metal, the taxi story. There had to be at least some kind of reference. Maybe not, but I love The Fifth Element. It's one of my favorite Bruce Willis films. And saw it in the theater. Remember having a good time with it. Number 14, Mammoth Fury Road. I mean, I don't hate the film. It's just not a big cup of tea for me. There is some really good stunt work and practical effects. Once in a while, there's a CGI, like the CGI storm, that just takes me out of the movie. But most of all, I don't like Tom Hardy. I don't like him as Mad Max. I would have much preferred Mel Gibson. I know he's persona non grata with Hollywood, but Mel Gibson should have been Mad Max for one final time. I think that alone would have made me like the film a lot more. Because Tom Hardy, it's not really his film. It's Furiosa's film. It's Charlize Theron's film. I like Charlize Theron, but it's called Mad Max, and I want to root for Mad Max more, and I didn't really root for him that much in that movie. But got some good technical elements to it. I'll give you that. Number 13, The Mask. Decent film. It's not my favorite Jim Carrey film. I would say I prefer Ace Ventura 1 and 2 and Dumb and Dumber, Liar Liar, and so forth. Just The Mask, I didn't really find it that funny. I just really liked the creative visuals, and like the acting by Jim Carrey and others are fine. It's just, I didn't really find it that funny of a movie as others did. But like I said, the cartoon like crazy special effects, and it's definitely better than Son of the Mask. I'll give you that. So a pretty decent film. It was a good sized hit in 1994 for New Line Cinema. I think the original comic was much more hardcore and R rated, but here it's toned down a bit. Number 12, The Terminator. My favorite Terminator film. I love the horror film aspect to it. I wish they had kept that throughout the rest of the franchise. As much as I like Terminator 2, it still went a bit into the, whether you see the extended cut with the smile, Terminator smiling bit, or even the theatrical cut with, I get why for the story, but I promise I will not kill anyone, shooting people in the kneecaps. I mean, I get why, but I just didn't want that for the Terminator. I didn't. That's just me. The Terminator, I like the music. I love the music in Terminator 2. I like the music in Terminator 1 more because it has that horror slasher vibe to it. Not just the music, but the whole movie. It seems darker and gloomier and grittier. Yes, some of the effects don't hold up the best, like the eyeball in front of the mirror scene. But I definitely think it's the more intense Terminator film. And it was great to see Arnold as the bad guy, just unrelenting killing machine. Just a guy you don't want to mess with. No pity, no remorse, no fear, no pain. You bought that hook, line, sinker. I didn't need to start having. There's a little bit of jokiness in Terminator 2, and then as they went on, talk to the hand, T3 and stuff. So, but Terminator's a good one. John Carpenter's The Thing, number 11, classic. Makes sense to me. It's one of my favorite horror films. Sometimes I would say it is my favorite horror film, but then sometimes like it's a damn good movie. It's nearly flawless in my opinion. The cinematography by Dean Cundey is beautiful and crisp, and the way that the ice and cold and snow really just gives you the sense of isolation. The cast, even though they're not given huge depth, each one looks unique. So it's not like, who's that guy and who's that guy? I could tell each of them apart. They have unique features. Even a little bit, they have a little bit of personality, like Palmer. They come out, this guy, man. Or Keith David being a bit more of the want to step up and argue. You have the Donald Moffat as the leader who's not quite up to the task. Wilford Brimley is the guy that knows, I'll kill you. Like, he knows no one can leave. Don't you understand that they wants to be us? And of course, effects by Rob Bottin, which is some of the best makeup effects of all time. And then you got Ennio Morricone score that fits like a glove. It's one of those films that has an ambiguous ending, but it worked because John Carpenter, I think, earned it with the story he was telling and everything in between. I'm like, I don't usually like movies. I don't usually like endings like this, but it was earned in The Thing. So it fit well. And it's a question mark. Who's the Thing? Who's not the Thing? Maybe it's both. Maybe it's neither. Cool. Number 10, Shrek 2. I don't remember. I know I've seen some of them, and some of them I didn't mind, but I remember Shrek 1 a bit more. I don't remember what happened in Shrek 2. Like the plot. I don't remember thinking it was a bad movie, but I just don't remember the plot. Yeah, I've only seen those films like once or twice. I remember Shrek 3 and 4 not caring for, but Shrek 1 and 2, I remember not minding, unless I'm wrong, but I know the first one I didn't mind. Like I said, I don't remember much of the second one. It's not the one with the cookie becomes really big at the end, and or maybe I can't remember. So sorry, I can't say much about that. Number 9, Reservoir Dogs. Interesting. I mean, a lot of people like that film. I do as well. I think it has a great cast, from Harvey Keitel to Steve Buscemi, among others. Very good movie. Yeah, I do like it. been a while since I've seen it, but it definitely had the start of that tightly paced dialogue. Doing a dream, you better wake up and apologize. Michael Madsen with the ear cutting scene and the dance, and for the limited budget they had, Tarantino definitely made his mark. And for me, I thought he got better. Well, Pulp Fiction is actually on the list, so I'll save it for that. But Reservoir Dogs, good choice. Evil Dead 2, number 8, great choice. Love Evil Dead 2. A lot of fun. When Ash gets that chainsaw and says groovy, it's a crowd pleaser. Mix of horror from Evil Dead 1, the comedy you see more in Army of Darkness. So I would say Evil Dead 2 is my favorite of all the Evil Dead films. That's when Ash becomes the normal guy to the prophesized one and gets his chainsaw and boomstick. That's when Ash becomes Ash. I thought it was the best version of Ash. I liked him in Army of Darkness and Evil Dead, but I thought the best version of Ash because it was like the first one taking it seriously enough, but like Army of Darkness, once in a while he'd have a cool one-liner. Swallow this. No, that was in the Army of Darkness. I think he just said, let's go. And again, the creativity in that, from the hand going around and even before that, smashing Bruce Campbell over the place. It's pretty funny and it's pretty damn entertaining. Number 7, The Dark Knight. Not big on the Christopher Nolan Batman films. I prefer Michael Keaton's. I even prefer the new one. I will say Heath Ledger did a wonderful job, and the accolades are deserved. He did a great job with it. To me, that's the best part of the movie. I'm not a fan of Christian Bale's performance as Batman. I'm not a fan of the voice. I'm not a fan of a lot of those aspects, so it's just not for me, but hey, that's fine. Number 6, Highlander. Good one. There Can Be Only One. Christopher Lambert. Clancy Brown as your villain. Yeah, Sean Connery. Yeah, Queen on the soundtrack. Not a bad choice at all, man. Number 5, The Matrix. Another wonderful choice. Yeah, saw that in the theater. Had a great time. It was just like the action and spectacle and the coolness of the plot, and at the time, mind-bending special effects. Being a fan of Keanu Reeves, it was nice to see him again after seeing him in films like Speed. Lawrence Fishburne, Terry M. Moss, Hugo Weaving. Definitely the best of the Matrix films. Some would say the only good one, but I liked the first 3. What more could be said about The Matrix? It's a damn good movie. Number 4, Pulp Fiction. Definitely one of the better Tarantino films. John Travolta, Bruce Willis. Dialogue works very well. Nice use of music from the opening throughout. It's tricky to do that whole thing where you're not doing a story linear. You're doing pieces, so you go back and forth for time. It's tough to do that without being confusing, but I thought Quentin Tarantino pulled it off very well. Nice to see people like Ving Rhames and Christopher. How do I not remember his name? Christopher Walken. Among other people in there. Harvey Keitel. I remember when I first saw this, I never got to see the ending. Like, I saw on like a VHS tape, like it was taped from a blank tape, but like the last 25 minutes were cut off. So pretty much I would always like watch it until Bruce Willis did his thing with the sword. You'd have the beginning of the John Travolta Sam Jackson end. Oh, I shot Marvin in the face. And I always remember the last scene was Harvey Keitel says, okay, you got a body and a car. And then boom, it'd be done. So it wasn't until years later that I finally saw the ending to Pulp Fiction. I'm like, okay, well, that's how it ended with the Sam Jackson and the diner and the robbery and such. I'm like, okay, that's neat. Good way to end it. Again, Weird that it took me years before I finally saw it, but that's what happens sometimes. But very good movie. Number three, Back to the Future classic. One more can be said about that. It's so sad Michael J. Fox got his affliction. Not only personally, I feel bad for him, but just, as a fan, all the films he could have done, being greedy and selfish, all the films he could have done and should have done, and should have been a part of, we missed out on that. Because I liked him in The Frighteners and Casualties of War and The Hard Way, but Back to the Future, much better than Eric Stoltz. I think if Eric Stoltz was in it, it would have been a disaster. Michael J. Fox had that charm, boyish charm, that worked well, especially a bit better in comedy compared to Eric Stoltz. I think he seemed like he had more chemistry with Christopher Lloyd's character. At least the little bits they've shown. But I was surprised they haven't just shown all of the footage, because then someone would do like a fan edit or something. I'd be curious to watch it, just to see the difference. But we all know that this is the better result. I remember as a kid liking Back to the Future Part 2 more. And I still like that movie, but as I grew up, I've liked Back to the Future 1 more. Maybe because it seems like a bit more of a funnier movie. Like, Part 2 is more of a good adventure story, while this is a bit of a better comedy. And I guess it depends on your mood. And yeah, Back to the Future, lightning in the bottle. Although I do like the second one. The third one is there. I don't hate it as much as I used to back in the day, but I don't love the film. Thankfully, there'll never be a remake, because I believe Zemeckis and Bob Gale have put in the contracts, and there won't be a remake. So, that's good to hear. And we don't need a part 4. What was the idea? Like Michael J. Fox, I have a part 4 and it's a female. Like, no, we don't need it, man. A female Marty McFly, no. So it'd be like a reboot, not a, no, we don't need that. Number 2, Empire Strikes Back. I'm sure that would be on a lot of people's lists. I mean, my favorite Star Wars is the original. And then I probably say I like Return of the Jedi a bit more. I don't mind Empire Strikes Back. The stuff with Yoda, nicely done. The battle with Darth Vader, I do enjoy that bit. Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher has some nice moments. I love you, I know. It's just one of those things where it falls to that pit where it has to leave on a cliffhanger to set up for the end of this trilogy. And pretty much Luke is training, after the opening, Luke is kind of training a bit, and then fight, gets his ass kicked. And it ends on a bummer. I mean, I get the point of it, though. Gets his hand cut off, Han Solo and Carbonite. Things are dire, so we want you to go see the third and the last one to see how it ends. I get that. I don't know, just as a movie, I like it, but it's not one I just wanted to rewatch over and over again. I really like Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams. Like, the moments I really like, but as a whole, just something about it where it's not bad at all. It's just not something I rewatch a lot. But at the same time, I'm not really as big of a Star Wars as maybe people think. I like those movies, but would they be in my top 50 films? No. Predator, Aliens, Hard Target, Rambo films, etc. would. But I still liked that trilogy. And then it got ruined by Kathleen Kennedy in them. And then number 1, The Lord of the Rings. And it's The Return of the King. That one. I'll be honest, I don't remember that film. I remember it being very long. I remember having like 4 endings. I'm not a Lord of the Rings guy. I have nothing against people who are. I'm not a big fantasy guy. I saw a few episodes of Game of Thrones. Like, it's there. I don't mind Willow. I don't love Willow, but I don't mind Willow. But I just never been It's not Dungeons and Dragons, but the Dungeons and Dragons type of fantasy just never did much for me. Unless it's like Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer back to the day or such, or the Sword and Sorcerer. But I don't know, just something about, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just the look at the time period and I don't know, just something about it. I can't quite put my finger on it. I'm sorry, it's not much of an answer. But I know a lot of people love those movies. They just never been my cup of tea. They're very long. I found them pretty slow and boring, but that's just me. But with that said, pretty damn good list, Aragorn. And of course, Aragorn, now it makes sense why Aragorn, Lord of the Rings. So, thanks for watching. Take care, and we will see you guys later. Bye bye.